So for today's sculpting, we're going to sculpt the deep lateral rotators of the hip, the 3 gluteal muscles, and optionally, it could be helpful to sculpt the sacrotuberous ligament and sacrospinous ligament. Obviously, it works best to sculpt the deeper structures first and then the superficial structures. If you have a bilateral model, I recommend sculpting the deep 6 on one side and the glutes on the other side. If you are sculpting just on one side, make sure you take pictures of the deeper structures, such as the deep 6 and Gluteus Minimus, before you cover them with the more superficial structures. I recommend using different colors for each muscle, but that's optional. And remember to label your work at the end. All right, I decided to sculpt my sacrospinous and sacrotuberous ligaments before I did my deep 6. So here's the sacrospinous on this anterior view from the sacrum to the spine. In the hips or os coxa. So I'm doing my ligaments here in purple, and from this anterior view, we can see sacrospinous in there. And now I'm going to go posteriorly to build sacrotuberous. And now for the sacrotuberous ligament, very big, strong ligament, like a big Y-shaped ligament from the PSIS to the base or the apex of the sacrum. And then above, on the ischial tuberosity or the sits bone, but above where the hamstrings would be here, in fact, you could see the hamstring tendon and how it would connect in there. So on the posterior view now, we've got this big, great Y shape in purple of my PSIS, my ischial tuberosity or sits bones, and the apex of the sacrum. All right, I'm building my obturator externus next. So on the anterior view, covering this foramen or the holes there, and then going behind the neck of the femur to attach on the greater trochanter. So three-dimensionally, here we have it in yellow on the front view. It's a little thicker than it would be in the body, but it was difficult to build. And then a great thing about the three-dimensionality of sculpting is you can really see, you know, when we go behind structures and then tuck in behind. So there's our externus. I'm going to do internus next. That's obturator externus. Okay, so next I built obturator internus in red. So here we are looking at a posterior view, and it would be on the inside of attaching or originating on the inside of that obturator foramen, those holes, and then it's going to attach to the trochanteric fossa, next to the greater trochanter. And so in the model in the posterior view, in red here, we have internus, and turning the corner, this tendon would be a lot smaller, but it's hard to sculpt. And then internus here we have in yellow, and these would become a continuous tendon here. So I could, sculpt it in the same color, but it's a little small to do that. So the gemelli, superior and inferior, they're very thin, very small muscles. So I'm rolling out some very thin muscles, and I've reflected the sacrotuberous ligament to get the gemellus superior here on the spine, and then going up to the top here, a little more anterior on the greater trochanter. So that's the gemellus superior. And then gemellus inferior, tucked the origin just inferior, just below gemellus superior. So I'm doing this inferior in pink, so below the spine. And it would be a little thinner than this, but hard to sculpt. And then I'm going to put my sacrotuberous ligament back. So here we have gemellus superior here from the spine to the medial surface of the greater trochanter. Very small, very deep, shared ligament, or excuse me, shared tendon on the insertion. And then here we have the gemellus inferior originating just below or inferior to the spine, and the insertion on the medial surface of the greater trochanter, just a little bit below superior. So there we have gemellus superior, gemellus inferior, and in clay, I've got them here in green and pink. And so then refresher there, the obturator internus here is in red, and the obturator externus here is in yellow. And then the last two I'm going to build are actually the most palpable ones. I'm going to build piriformis and obturator externus next. Okay, so now I've sculpted piriformis, which is actually originating on the anterior surface of the sacrum. So I just kind of tucked it under there. And then the most superior of these tendinous attachments here, of these deep rotators. And here it is by itself, and here it is relationship to the other rotators. So in my sculpting, it's here in blue, and I try to, attach it to the anterior surface of the sacrum. And there we have it on the greater trochanter. And then I'm going to put the sacrotuberous ligament back like so. And it's not really obvious from the sculpture, but when you're actually palpating, this blue piriformis is bigger and actually quite discernible by comparison to these other gemelli and obturators. Okay, then my last of my deep six is the obturator internus here, I'm sorry, it is not my obturator internus. I'm going for my Quadratus Femoris is my last one. So here on the lateral aspect of the ischial tuberosity, and then we're going into this intertrochanteric area. So, and that one's very palpable. So here it is in orange on my lateral aspect of my ischial tuberosity. And here we are below the other deep six insertions. It's lower. And I was going to pop in a little, see if I can pop in a sciatic nerve. I'm not going to do the entire length of the sciatic nerve, but I'm going to try to get it under this piriformis, just as an indication of, where this sciatic nerve would emerge. Maybe I'll just remove my piriformis and actually tuck it under there. And hopefully that sciatic nerve is not an impingement problem, doesn't have an impingement problem for this person. And that's the deep six lateral rotators. And I think I'll build the glutes on the other side. All right, I sculpted Gluteus Minimus first of the glutes because it's the deepest. And here we have a pretty broad origin on the gluteal surface of the ilium between the anterior and inferior gluteal lines. So you can see it going pretty far anteriorly and more inferiorly than medius as far as the origin. And then you have to look at the anterior view to see that it inserts on the anterior aspect of the greater trochanter. And here we have the fibers up here. So in my model, I have it on the, going more to the front of the ilium and inserting on the front of the ilium. And there we have it in green. All right, so next I sculpted Gluteus Medius, which the origin here in gray is just below, all the way just below the iliac crest, very far anterior to pretty much right where it turns the corner, the iliac crest. And then it goes to the lateral aspect, inserts on the lateral aspect of the greater trochanter. So right here, and all these fibers converging. So on my sculpture, it's in pink, and it goes all the way in this anterior aspect to this posterior aspect, and we'd have kind of a fanning of the fibers if I were to draw those in. And you could see where it covers Gluteus Minimus in green. Okay, the last glute, Gluteus Maximus, the largest gluteal muscle, originating all the way from down the border of the coccyx, the sacrum, the entire lateral border of the sacrum there, and up into part of the iliac crest. And inserting into the iliotibial band or iliotibial tract, two names for the same thing. I did not sculpt an iliotibial tract, so I just sculpted going into the bone basically. But it does, the lower fibers do insert into the gluteal tuberosity here. So in my sculpture, I've got my Gluteus Maximus in red, again, all the way down from the lateral border of the sacrum, coccyx, sacrum, and the top of the ilium, just below the ilium. And then we're going down to, there would be an IT band here, and then the gluteal tuberosity. Okay, and then just a last quick little tour here through the labels of my 6 deep lateral rotators. Here in blue, we've got Piriformis, and then in pink, well, here in green, Gemellus superior, and then in pink, Gemellus inferior, and this one here that comes around this inside and around the corner is Obturator internus. And what you cannot really see in yellow coming around the outside is Obturator externus. And then here in orange is Quadratus Femoris. And then here coming out from underneath this Piriformis is the sciatic nerve. And then here, the large posterior Gluteus Maximus here in a dark pink or red. And here we have Gluteus Medius in pink. And then underneath, if we peeled that away, you could see in green Gluteus Minimus. The 3 glute muscles and the 6 deep lateral rotators of the hip.